One thinks surviving a collapse comes down to what's in your closet. It doesn't. The first thing that decides whether you make it is where you're standing. The military never picks ground by the weather. It grades terrain on a checklist most civilians never hear. I'm going to walk you through 7 states scored that same way: density, water, terrain, distance from a target. One of them is the single safest place in the country, and almost nobody guesses it. 2 obvious prepper states hide a problem that gets people killed. Stay to the end. Find out if your state made the cut. We start with the state nobody expects: West Virginia. Say that to a prepper, and you'll get a blank stare. That blank stare is exactly why it works. Empty of attention means empty of competition. Here's the anchor. FEMA runs a national scorecard called the Risk Index. It grades every county in the country across 18 natural hazards: floods, wildfire, tornado, earthquake, all of it. West Virginia is one of only 2 states with almost no counties rated moderate risk or higher. Read that again. The federal government's own hazard map can barely find a dangerous spot in the entire state. Now, stack the rest on top. West Virginia sits deep in the Appalachian water belt. The groundwater is shallow. The creeks run all year. You need to understand why that matters more than anything on your shelf. Your deep well needs a pump. Your pump needs power. When the power dies, that well becomes a hole in the ground you can't reach. Shallow water and running creeks don't care about the grid. You walk to them. You dip a bucket. You keep living. Then look at what one ridge of this land gives you. Hardwood timber covers the hills. That's your heat through winter. That's your building material. That's your cooking fire, all from the same slope. The terrain itself is defense. These are steep hollows and narrow valleys. There's one way in and 100 places to watch it from. One good ridge does the work of a fence line you could never afford. And the land is some of the cheapest in the eastern half of the country. You can buy real acreage here for what a bare lot costs out west. Picture the failure the same week the power drops. A city 40 miles off strips its shelves in 3 days. Then the pumps quit and the taps go dry. Then the desperate start moving to find water. Your hollow does none of that. Your creek still runs. Your neighbors are few and known. That gap is the whole game. Here's the civilian mistake. People chase the mountain west. They drive right past a mountain fortress a single day from the entire East Coast. They pay up to 10 times the price for raw land 2,000 miles away. Then, they forget a water-rich, low-hazard state was sitting in their own backyard the whole time. You don't need to cross the country. You need to read the map correctly. West Virginia isn't the consolation prize. It opens this list because it quietly beats states with far louder reputations. That FEMA map's just the start, so I've written the full guide to picking safe ground, linked up top to print before you lose signal. Now the one you probably saw coming. Idaho. If you've read anything on relocation, this name is on the list. There's a reason it earns the spot. Back in 2011, a former Army intelligence officer named James Wesley Rawls drew a map. He called it the American Redoubt. Idaho was the heart of it. He didn't pick it for the views. He picked it the way an intelligence officer reads ground: low population, defensible terrain, water in every valley. Central Idaho shows up in almost every nuclear study as one of the lowest priority targets in the country. Nobody's spending a warhead on empty mountains. Here's what that emptiness actually buys you. Many Idaho counties hold fewer than 10 people per square mile. A single city county can pack thousands into that same square mile. Density is the master number on this whole list. A crowded county strips its shelves in about 3 days. Then it pushes a wave of frightened people out onto the roads. An empty county does neither. You're not fighting a crowd for the last case of water. There is no crowd. There's a rule the serious planners live by: sit at least 300 miles from any major city. Most of Idaho clears that bar with room to spare. That distance is protection you never have to defend. Every mile between you and a city drains the fuel, food, and will of anyone trying to reach you. Look at how much one location stacks for you here. The Panhandle and the Central Mountains give you high ground and cover. Elk, deer, and big game move through it, so protein walks to you. Rivers and lakes cut across it, so water and fish are built in. You can genuinely live off this land. You're not just hiding on it and hoping. Now the civilian mistake, and it's a big one. People hear Idaho and picture one cabin, one generator, one rifle, 40 miles from another soul. Total isolation feels safe. It isn't. You can't hold ground around the clock by yourself. Nobody can. You sleep. You get sick. You get hurt. The trained move is a small group of like-minded neighbors inside a day's reach. Not a hermit freezing alone on a hill. One family is a target. A handful of prepared families is a problem nobody wants. One more truth about this state. The winters are long and the snow runs deep. That's a filter, not a flaw. Deep snow and closed mountain passes stop a foot column cold. A road that shuts in December buys you months of quiet. You prepare for it with stored fuel, stored food, and a way to heat. The same winter that tests you is the winter that shields you from everyone who didn't. Idaho earns the hype, just don't romanticize it. You pick the water first and the view a distant second. Third on this list is a state that hands you two wins at once. Tennessee. Most survivable states cost you something. Brutal winters, thin job markets, a 2-hour drive to a real hospital. Tennessee softens nearly all of it. Start with the ground. It sits across the Appalachian and Cumberland water belts. Surface water is everywhere you look. Springs, rivers, and creeks feed the whole state. The growing season runs long enough to actually farm, not just poke a few tomatoes in the dirt for July. You can put up real food here, season after season. Now the part that hits your bank account. Tennessee charges no state income tax. It fully exempts military retirement pay. Not $1 of your pension goes to the state. The effective property tax runs near 0.2%, among the lowest in the country. Think about what that means for you. The money you don't hand the government buys land, buys stores, buys fuel. Over 20 years, that gap alone can fund a whole retreat. And the VA runs major medical centers in Nashville and Memphis, so your care isn't a 4-hour drive down a closed road. Medical access is the piece most preppers skip. You can stack 10 years of food and still lose everything to one bad infection. A veteran plans for care the way he plans for water. Being an hour from a real hospital now is worth more than any gadget in the bag. There's a second reason a veteran wants this state. You land among people who already respect the uniform and already prep. That's your barter network. That's your early warning. When the grid drops, the people around you decide as much as the terrain does. On the target map, the Mid-South sits in the lower priority zone. No silo fields, no prime strategic bullseyes drawing fire your way. Here's the civilian mistake. People pick a state off one single number. They chase the cheapest cost of living and never check the water. Or they move somewhere for the politics and ignore the growing season entirely. You need the whole scorecard, not one line of it. A cheap state with no water fails you the very first week the grid goes down. One honest caveat, because no state is perfect. The far west of Tennessee edges toward tornado country, so you read it county by county, the way you read everything. You settle in the eastern hills where the water runs and the ridges give cover. The storms stay west and the scorecard still comes out ahead. Tennessee is rare, it's survivable, it's affordable, and it actually rewards you for showing up in uniform. That's exactly why the quiet move runs straight toward it. This is the one. Write this down. Number 4 breaks every assumption you carry about flyover country. South Dakota. Nobody pictures South Dakota as a fortress. That's the whole point, and it's your advantage. Look at the facts instead of the reputation. South Dakota sits at or near the top of nearly every ranking of veteran-friendly states. No state income tax at all. That includes your military retirement pay. Veteran unemployment here runs among the lowest in the nation. And if you're a permanently disabled veteran, you can claim a property tax exemption worth up to $150,000. That's not a coupon. That's a home you keep no matter how bad it gets. Now the stat that should stop you cold. In the latest data on where Americans are actually relocating, South Dakota ranks as the single top destination in the country. People are already voting with their moving trucks. Most of them give the same two reasons: affordability and room to live self-reliant. The smart money is moving there right now, while it's still cheap. You want to be early to a place like this, not late. Here's the piece almost every prepper gets dead wrong. They look at the northern plains and see nothing but missile targets. And honestly, they're half right. Its neighbors still host active Minuteman fields in the ground. But South Dakota's silos are gone. They were dismantled and demolished under arms reduction treaties decades back. So you get the empty, low-density character of the plains without the active silo bullseye its neighbors still wear over their heads. Then you've got the Black Hills out west. High ground, timber for heat and building, springs and streams that don't quit in a drought. That's defensible terrain with water already built into it. You stack safety, water, and cover in one move. Push onto the open prairie instead, and you trade that cover for wind and exposure. So you settle in the hills and let the ground work for you. So walk the civilian mistake one more time, slowly. The civilian sees empty plains and assumes empty means exposed. The trained eye reads the target history first. It sees a state that shed its silos and kept its emptiness. That's not a place you avoid. That's a place people are racing toward before the rest of the country wakes up. South Dakota is the sleeper of this whole list. You underestimate it at your own cost. Number 5 is nearly a perfect score. Then one detail changes exactly how you use it. Wyoming. Start with raw emptiness, because Wyoming owns it. This is the least populous state in the country. Roughly 590,000 people live in the whole thing. That works out to about 6 people per square mile. Let that land for a second. An entire state holds fewer people than one mid-sized city. When the roads fill with the desperate, this is exactly where they aren't. On the FEMA Risk Index, Wyoming reads just as clean as West Virginia. Almost no counties rated moderate hazard or higher. You've got grazing land, timber, and mountain water spread across most of it. Elk and antelope for protein, cold rivers for water. On paper, it's a Redoubt dream you could build on tomorrow. Here's the catch a civilian misses completely. F.E. Warren Air Force Base sits near Cheyenne in the southeast corner. It commands an active Minuteman missile field spread across that part of the state. Those silos are live targets in any serious exchange. So that southeast corner isn't empty safe ground. It's a bullseye with cattle standing on it. Downwind of a strike, the fallout doesn't care about your county line either. This is where the trained reed splits hard from the tourist reed. The civilian looks at Wyoming and calls the whole state safe. Wrong. You never treat a state as one flat number. You read it county by county the way you'd read terrain before you ever set up a position. The move here is simple. You go north, you go west. You put 100 miles in a mountain range between you and that silo belt. And you plan for the cold, because this country is high and hard. Winters isolate you fast. You lay in fuel, food, and a way to heat before the first storm hits. A road that closes in November might not open till